Welcome to Circle Sanctuary's May Sacred Trees Full Moon Circle. I'm Judith, and I'll be your guide this evening. Trees are such a beautiful symbol of this greening time of year, of rebirth and growth. Remembering that trees are an integral part of Mother Nature and honoring them as sacred, we see the earth's glory of strength and endurance. They give us shade, flowers, and fruits. They sacrifice their lives so that we may have roofs over our heads, hearth fires to keep us warm, and they provide the sacred bonfires that are the center jewel of many of our circles. There's great symbolism in the color of the tree, like the brown trunk of the tree, which symbolizes stability, structure, and support. Brown gives us a sense of duty and responsibility and encourages a sense of security and belonging. The green of the leaves symbolize nature, fertility, and life. It also represents balance, learning, growth, and harmony. All things in nature are connected. In fact, I've recently heard that we share 50% of our genetic makeup with trees. Trees need what we exhale, and we need what they produce in return, clean air. They are critical to all life on the planet. So thank you for joining us tonight or for watching later as we celebrate the sacred trees. It is now my honor and pleasure to introduce our High Priestess and Senior Minister, Reverend Selena Fox.
Greetings. It is wonderful to be with you, and I am coming to you live from Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve. That's right, we have a new internet system. It's still satellite, and I'm outside for this first part, this welcome, so you can see trees that call Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve home. It's wonderful to see you, and we have a super moon, a bright moon, a full moon, and earlier today there was a total lunar eclipse. Bright blessings. Come, attune, and commune to sacred trees. Full moon.
And now, Nikki, would you please give us the announcements?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our May Sacred Trees Full Moon Circle. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Okay, so we have a few announcements for tonight. Remember, you can check the Circle Sanctuary website at www.circlesanctuary.org for more information about all of these events. Make sure you check the Circle Sanctuary website or the CSN Podcast Facebook page for a full schedule of the upcoming podcasts for the month. Monday, May 31st is Memorial Day. Circle Sanctuary honors those who have given service to our country, those who are currently serving, and also to their families. Thank you. Saturday, June 12th, Circle will be having a community day on the Circle Sanctuary land. Please register in advance. We will be requiring proof of vaccinations. There is also something special being planned for Summer Solstice Day, June 20th. Please check the Circle Sanctuary website or watch the Facebook page in early June for more details on that. Our next full moon circle will be themed Midsummer Magic, and it will be taking place on Thursday, June 24th. The virtual Pagan Spirit Gathering, Spirals of Change, will be taking place from Friday, June 25th through Sunday, June 27th. Registration is open online now. Also, be sure to sign up for the Circle Times Bulletin on Circle's website or send an email to circle@circlesanctuary.org to ask to be added to the list in order to keep up on information about all of our events and other relevant news. Please also consider supporting Circle through joining our membership program. Members get quite a few different perks, including a quarterly newsletter. There's a membership patch card. Membership also includes discounts on products and events. You can also help support Circle by donating to the Circle Sanctuary COVID-19 Relief Fund or by shopping our online resource shop. I think that's everything I have for you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nikki. Okay, Chris, take it away.
So currently, though we are miles apart, we are in the same place. We are connected to each other by three aspects. Take a moment and close your eyes. Listen to my voice as we re-engage the connections between us. The first aspect is that of the land. Each of us stands upon the land, our own land. Our own land. This land upon which we stand. The land of our people. Perhaps the land of our ancestors. In this land, we are grounded to the world. The land where you dwell and the land of all here gathered is the same land. The ground beneath you is the same ground beneath your family of blood and choice. This land connects us all. The second aspect of our connection is that of the sky. We all live beneath the great dome of the sky. When we walk on the land, but we walk through the sky. From the sky we hear the birds sing, we hear the voices of our community, raised in joy, in sorrow, in pain, and in ecstasy. From the sky comes the air we breathe. Breathe in deeply and share your breath with your community. The sky connects us all. The third aspect of our connection is that of the sea. Now some of you may think, wait a minute, I'm nowhere near the sea. How can that be part of our connection? This planet is made up of 2/3 water. The blood that flows through our bodies is linked to the sea in many ways. Wherever we stand upon the land, if we raise our perspective high enough into the sky, we will see ourselves surrounded by the sea. The moon that we honor this night pulls upon the sea that is around us and within us. Our connections are restored. Let us now cast our circle.
Welcome everyone to the circle. If you would just imagine for a moment that there's a big, beautiful redwood circle ring consisting of 5 to 10 stalks with deep roots and towering trees. Let us cast our circle together. We call to the northern watchtowers, hailing from the mother trees and the redwood circle rings. From this heart of the forest, we call out to the forces of earth to say that we are allies and kin. We welcome the life force of earth to this sacred tree's full moon circle. Hail and welcome. We call to the eastern watchtowers, hailing from the wind-blown branches of the redwood circle rings. From these sky dancers, we call out to the forces of air to say that we are allies and kin. We welcome the life force of air to this sacred tree's full moon circle. Hail and welcome. We call to the southern watchtowers, hailing from the resilient roots of the redwood circle rings. From these underground railroads, we call out to the forces of fire to say that we are allies and kin. We welcome the life force of regenerative fire to the sacred tree's full moon circle. Hail and welcome. We call to the western watchtowers, hailing from the rivers of sap within the redwood circle rings. And from the veins of these giants, we call out to the forces of water to say that we are allies and kin. We welcome the life force of water to this sacred tree's full moon circle. Hail and welcome. And we call the central watchtowers, hailing from the elder stumps in the middle of the redwood circle rings. And from this source of ancient memories and life wisdom, we call out to the spirit in all beings to say that we are allies and we are kin. We welcome the life force of spirit to the sacred tree's full moon circle. Hail and welcome. The circle is now cast. May all within feel connected, safe, welcome, and blessed. So mote it be.
So mote it be. Richard, I now invite you to kindle the moon fire.
One of the unique places at Circle Sanctuary that can have a full moon fire lit is at the center of the spiral labyrinth. There's not a permanent fire pit there, so a brazier has to be carried in. And then you have to go around the spiral to get out and to get in and then out for the firewood. It takes a long time. Actually, it's about a 20-minute walk from the temple room down the spiral and the gravel drive along the stream. The ritual circle at the center of the labyrinth is quite small. It'll only accommodate about 15 people. I light this beeswax candle in anticipation of future full moon fires at Circle Sanctuary. So mote it be.
Everyone who's here with me on this Zoom, and if you're at home watching along or watching later, please join us in lighting a sacred candle and welcoming the sacred trees to our circle this evening. Selena.
Greetings from the Circle Sanctuary Temple Room. I am here celebrating the full moon in a building that has been created with oak beams that grew on this land. A chant that I wrote many years ago. I have changed the words a bit for tonight's celebration. Let's dance with the trees. Let's prance with the trees. Let's trance with the trees and become one with each other. Let's dance with the trees. Let's prance.
So hopefully we'll have Selena back with us in just a moment.
Trees. Let's dance with the trees. Let's trance with the trees and become one with each other.
Thank you, Selena. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to the presenters we have tonight with our Grove of Sacred Trees. And to start off, we've got Richard talking about the American chestnut.
Bright blessings of the maker on the stately American chestnut. Most of you have probably never seen a chestnut tree. Up until about 100 years ago, these large trees, and they are large, they will grow up to 5 feet in diameter, were a major source of timber and food in the eastern United States. They figured about 20 or 30% of the forests on the eastern coast was made up of chestnut trees. And about 120 years or so ago, a fungal disease pretty much wiped out all the American chestnuts. Since then, a breeding program has produced a tree that is more resistant to this fungal disease. I have planted 3 of these new trees on my property in southern Wisconsin. I hope they survive and in about 4 or 5 years start producing some chestnuts. I like chestnuts. So mote it be.
Thank you, Richard, and I welcome back those American chestnuts. We now have Laura, who does Tarot with Laura, who you can find on Facebook and online. And she joins us this evening to present the apple tree.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome. And thank you for joining us. And I chose the tree that is known as the crab apple tree that they grow here in the city of Chicago. There's a number of them on the street on which I live. And I went into a journey of learning what the trees were, and turns out is the apple tree. And it was hard for me to understand which tree it was because there are 35 species of apple trees and 7,500 varieties of them. They have a number of magical properties, such as for health and healing, fertility, love, passion, and immortality. And of course, the protection of the apple tree. And their blossoms are used for sachets and also for purification baths. And if you've never done this, I invite you to do it at the first opportunity that you have. Grab an apple and instead of cutting it vertically, try to cut it horizontally and you will find a little surprise in there. You will find a pentacle, which is our protection symbol, a symbol of love and a symbol of our sacred nature religion. And of course, it is customary to believe that when you plant an apple tree, you are honoring the goddess and Mother Earth. So my blessing for you all will be to find yourself strong and proud, just like an apple tree. So what it means.
Wonderful, Laura. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of introducing Michelle. And Michelle has a shop on Etsy, which is called Happy Hollow Woodcrafting. And I have checked out her wares and they are fabulous, their wares. So Michelle is going to be presenting the ash.
Okay. I obviously doing wood crafting, I get very familiar with the spirit of different wood. Each wood I work with is very, very different, and I find ash to have its own personality, which is really no surprise, since we're talking about trees and the different things they can help us with. I find ash to be steadfast and true. It's easily to transform. It's a wood that's as hard as oak, but it's still really flexible, and it burns wet or dry, so that gives it a mystical quality right there. People use the ash itself to either shelter themselves or build or heal themselves, and it can be found all across different continents and different varieties. And the folklore goes with it. Some believe that the world tree in the Norse tradition, Yggdrasil, held the 9 realms. And Odin himself sacrificed himself, tied himself to an ash tree and offered himself up for 9 days and learned the runes. So I figured I'd read a little bit of the Havamal, talking about what he had spoke about. So hidden runes thou seek, and interpreted signs, many symbols of might and power, by the great signer painted, by the high powers fashioned, graved by the utterer of the gods. So ash is just an amazing tree. So blessings of the ash to everyone, and it's a good time to send healing blessings to the ash right now, since we have a problem with the emerald ash borer, which if you kind of tie it into the world tree, doesn't bode too well, but send that healing to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We now turn to Steve to present the birch tree.
Great and bright blessings. I have a very close personal connection with the birch. I grew up, as I related before, on a farm that's literally over the hill from Circle Sanctuary in Blue Mountains. And on a hill in that farm, there was a huge, a whole hill covered with birch trees. And what happened in 1976, there was a huge ice storm and it pulled all of the birch trees over. But rather than snapping and breaking, they all stayed in that form. And they're in that form. You can go to that same hill to get today, and you can see that they're all bent over like that to this day. And this is the birch is as one source I found out, the birch is an elegant force of nature, and it's always one of the first species to regrow in places of tragedy because it's a very flexible wood as opposed to a lot of larger, thicker trees that will just simply snap and break, especially with the periodic ice storms we have in Wisconsin. It will always regrow in places of tragedy, a forest fire perhaps, or even after the Great Ice Age. It can survive in harsh conditions of low nutrient soils and colder climates. So it's a tree that's able to be very resilient and bend like the willow and adapt to change. So that for me is the importance. It's also known in Celtic lore as Lady of the Woods because of this paper thin bark that peels to reveal dark fissures along the trunk and the delicate flowing leaves that cover the tree in the summer. So that for me is the legacy of the birch. Blessed be.
Thank you, Steve. We now have Heather, who's going to be presenting us with Cottonwood.
Hi. So I learned recently, and I posted it on Pagan Spirit Gathering Facebook page, that Cottonwood has a surprise inside when you break the small branches. So Cottonwood signals a time of hope, healing, and transformation. A Native American legend tells how the cottonwood tree first gave birth to the stars by holding star seeds within its branches. Buds shaped like five-pointed stars emerge in early spring from the branches, and in late spring, female cottonwoods birth their cotton-like seeds into the air, filling the sky with their magical stars. And that is happening right now in our neighborhoods. In winter, the stars sleep within the branches. When an upper branch is broken, a five-pointed star is revealed within as the home of the star seeds. I walk by a cottonwood tree every day on the way to work. I call it my tree. It's Mr. Cottonwood because he doesn't put out any fluff. And he was very kind to give me some little broken branches. I don't know if you can see the stars inside. So you have to break it at the joint and hope that it's a clean enough break so you see the star inside. And being a fan of Mary Oliver poetry, guess what I have? I have a poem by Mary Oliver. It's called When I Am Among the Trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks and pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself in which I have goodness and discernment and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. "It's simple," they say. And you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine.
Thank you, Heather. We now have Nikki, who's going to present us with the hawthorn.
Hello, my name's Nikki, and I wanted to talk about the hawthorn tree today. The hawthorn, it's also known as the May tree, or also as the fairy tree. There are many species of hawthorn. A lot of them are native to Europe, but there's also a lot of species of hawthorn that are native to North America. And there's just a huge amount of associated lore with these trees. There's one old nursery rhyme that goes, "The fair maid who on the 1st of May goes to the fields at the break of day and bathes in the dew from the hawthorn tree will ever strong and handsome be." Hawthorn blossoms were gathered early in the morning on May Day and used to decorate the outside of houses, barns, and also used to decorate the May Queen. They were carried in procession from house to house so all could share in the hawthorn tree's blessings. People would also weave hawthorn crowns and leave them for the fairy folk to find. When a fairy would find it and put it on, the giver would be granted many blessings in the lore. Another bit of hawthorn lore is that strips of brightly colored cloths, they're called cluties, and trinkets were also often tied to branches to appease the fairy folk. Hawthorns were often called clutie trees because of this. A lone hawthorn tree on a hill was considered a portal to the fairy realm. A hawthorn tree is magically associated with fertility, protection, and happiness. There are many blessings that hawthorn has to offer. The more you learn about hawthorn, the more blessings you are opening yourself to receiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. I didn't know that much about hawthorn. It's just gotten even more magical. So now, Tree, you ready to go with the maple tree?
I am. I'm honored as the resident Canadian. Of course, I need to present on the beautiful sugar maple tree. This is Acer saccharum. And I have many personal connections with the maple tree, but all trees really connect us to the divine. They've got their roots deep in our earth and they soak up the wisdom of our history, and they've got branches up in the sky and they're bringing down celestial messaging for us. So they're wonderful teachers and communicators. And as we're learning tonight, each tree, like Michelle mentioned, has their own story and their own unique personality. And for me, the sugar maple spirit is really teaching us to celebrate our life and all of the cycles of living. And particularly poignant for right now is the sugar maple tree really celebrates kind of resilience. So at the end of the winter, just as things are starting to shift, kind of between Imbolc and spring equinox, the maple starts running their sap flow. And it's a gift, it's a saccharine gift of this flowing sap. And we harvest it. This was taught to us, mind you, by the indigenous people, mostly in northeastern North America. Algonquin, Ojibwe, Lenape, Anishinaabe. This was taught to colonizers. And now we have maple syrup. So one of my traditions is in that time of year, I make a treat called the Maple Creams of Wishes and Dreams. And I will share the recipe for this. It's essentially the best maple fudge you've ever had in your life. And if you make it in a kind of kitchen witchery way in ritual, you can infuse it with even more celebratory and the energy that's very promising, like the maple energy has during the sap flow. It's this invitation to say, you made it, congratulations, here's a gift, and it will push you forward into the coming part of the year. And yeah, so I believe that the biggest blessings that the maple can offer us is true joy. And the message that we should celebrate and really revel in our resilience and enjoy the fruits of our life and the maple tree in particular. So I'll share that recipe on the Circle Friends page. Thanks.
Thank you, Tree. We now turn it over to Selena to talk about her ancestral oak.
It is wonderful to be here to celebrate oak tonight. I have oak in the form of a wand, and this wand, which is also serving as a pointer, is pointing out some oak beams that are part of our temple room. Oak is a tree that has been used by people through the ages from many cultures. It's enduring. That's one of its valued attributes for those who heat their homes with wood, and we supplement our heat. We live in an oak forest and there's lots of down wood, so we burn oak to help us keep warm. People have done that over time. It is a long burning wood and a hot burning wood. And the oak has figured into the celebration of the seasons, in particular, looking at the solstices. At summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the oak reigns supreme. Then as days start growing shorter and we move into what you might call the waning solar year, oak changes over the power of the sun to holly. And at Yuletide, you will see holly and oak both figuring prominently. Holly, often in the form of a roly-poly gift giver, wearing a crown of holly. Look at those Santa figures. And the oak in the form of an acorn held by a baby New Year. Oak has many attributes and it's connected with the divine in a number of ancient nature wisdom traditions. Amongst the Greeks, the oak was a tree of Zeus, and the Romans, Jupiter. And Bridget, the goddess of Celtic cultures, has the oak as one of her sacred ways of being. Diana of the moon in Roman and Greek mythology was known to bring special blessings to oak groves. And in Germanic and heathen traditions, the oak was a special tree connected with Thor. I celebrate the oak in an ancestral way. My father's line has as a symbol a oak stump that's sprouting green again, a symbol of resilience. Oak is something that is considered fortunate and something of prosperity. And my Pennsylvania Dutch ancestors from my mother's side have symbols called hex signs, although some of them have 5 points, such as this oak pinnacle that has been crafted in more recent times by pagans. We know that the oak was revered in a variety of ways, sometimes as the oak goddess, sometimes as the oak god, and sometimes as the oak spirit. This is a reproduction of the oaken green man at Winchester Cathedral in the UK,
crafted about 1400 in the Common Era. And although many of the cathedrals from that time period across Europe were Christian places, a number of those were built on ancient pagan holy places, and those who crafted them had some of those old ways still alive. And the green man that you will find in cathedrals is a bit of the pagan past recycled in a Christian context. And today, the green man is continuing to emerge, a contemporary form. And for some of us involved in eco-spirituality and eco-activism, this form of the green one, of the sprouting oak, is representing strength and renewal. At Circle Sanctuary, we have lots of trees, and among them are some oaks. And we have bur oaks, white oaks, black oaks, red oaks, and a whole lot of other kinds of oaks. Most of our 200 acres, 2/3 of it forest, and most of those hardwood trees are oak. So as you can tell, I totally celebrate the oak personally and community-wise. My oak blessing for you. Blessings of the sacred oak. Blessings of strength and endurance. Blessings of power and longevity. Blessings of good fortune and prosperity. Blessings of renewal and well-being. And the motto of my old Scottish clan with Norman roots, reveriscit, the Latin word. It grows green again and again. Reveriscit, 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 so be it. May we all be renewed tonight in this full moon circle, those watching live and later. May we all join with other humans and the planet as a whole in the quest for renewal and well-being now and in times to come. Reveriscit, 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 so be it.
Bright oak blessings. Thank you so much, Selena. Shar, it looks like you've got some redwoods in the background there.
Yeah, I'm feeling as passionate about the redwood as Selena's feeling about the oak here. This is a tree that's near and dear to my heart. When I was a young eco-feminist just starting out in eco-activism, I first came down with Earth First to one of the last stands of the coastal redwoods at Mendocino, trying to stop Georgia Pacific from cutting them down, and that was quite something. And I also was involved in the spotted owl wars up in the Pacific Northwest, because this bioregion roams up in through Southern Oregon and up into Seattle and British Columbia. And now the coastal redwoods, I've had an opportunity to live among them for 2 years. On this property, we have 9 redwood rings. And so I want to share with you the blessing and the story of the coastal redwoods, or sometimes called Sequoia sempervirens. Sequoia refers to part of the genus Sequoia, which is part of the cypress tree. They're pretty ancient. And sempervirens means everlasting or evergreen. So these are some of the oldest living beings on the planet. And it's really fun when you see kids walking through the redwoods, especially tourists for the first time. All the superlatives, wow, awesome, oh my God, gee, it's truly amazing when you stand among them, and yet their presence kind of defies language. And what really comes across is just the sense of patience and endurance. And it makes you wonder everything that they've seen, everything that they've seen, what they could tell you if we knew how to speak their language. And so they start from a seed no bigger than a small tomato. They may grow to a height of 367 feet. I've got some pretty good sized ones here way up. They can get as wide as 22 feet at the base. So imagine like a 30-foot, 35-story building in the middle of your street. That kind of gives you an idea. And some visitors at Henry Cowell Park down here envision dinosaurs, you know, ranging through the forests. And that's actually not too far-fetched, because fossil records have shown that relatives of today's coastal redwoods thrived in the Jurassic era, 160 million years ago, which is pretty amazing. Now, California's north coast here provides the only such environment in the world, really. It's a combination of longitude, climate, elevation, and it has been traditionally cool and moist. It's air created by the Pacific Ocean, which keeps the trees continually damp, even during summer droughts. And that's important because we are now 8 years into a mega drought in the West in California. And these redwood trees, you can see them in the morning, they continue to draw down mist. And they draw down mist, not only for themselves, but for every other plant, every other fungi, every other root system in the forest, and can produce moisture when it's drought and not raining. They're incredibly resilient. They've reached ages easily of 2,000 years and regularly, routinely get 600 years old if they're not cut down for lumber, which they aren't very much anymore. They're very resistant to natural enemies like insects and forest fire. They have a high tannin content in their bark and foliage that rests above the ground. And so like when we have incredible wildfires, which we do a lot more here in this area, all of the other trees around and the floor covering may burn away, but you'll still see redwoods themselves standing. And some of them are still burning like a coal inside their trunk, but their cambium hasn't fallen. They're still standing. They're just incredibly resilient. The most important environmental influence upon the coast redwood is how it shares its own biotic community. This is something else I love about them. They support all of the life in the forest around them, from the greenery on the forest floor to the fungal networks that are transmitting nutrients to each other, to other trees. The mother trees are the big stands in the middle, and all the other trees in the system or ring are offshoots. And they talk to each other. I mean, Simone Simard, wonderful, the New Botany, talks a lot about how trees communicate, and redwoods really champion this. And so they support all of the life in the forest, and they help to recycle all of the life in the forest. So I share with you the blessing of the redwoods, which is longevity, its endurance, its wisdom, and it's the ability to regenerate not only themselves, but community, regenerative community.
Thank you, Shar. And Jennifer will now present the Rowan.
Hello, everyone from South mid Wisconsin. I have here a branch. No Rowan was hurt for this presentation. This was a broken branch I pruned today. It just stopped its flowering last week. It flowered early this year because of our warm early spring, but there are the beginnings of the fruit. And when the fruit matures, it's bright red. And at the end of the fruit is a 5-pointed star. So we've heard that theme a lot, but it is amazing that that there are so many similar themes that run through. I have a very personal connection with this Rowan because I planted it in 1990. And when I bought my home, the first spring, I went to a nursery and I wanted a Rowan because I come from a Celtic home, and about half of the Scottish folktales I grew up with have to do with this tree. And I wanted a Rowan. It's known to be for protection and courage. And when I planted this Rowan, it was about this big, about 18 inches tall. It is now 36 feet tall. And it is a joy in my life. I spend a lot of time with this tree. I sit under it. It provides privacy and shade, and I believe protection. The Rowan is just storied in mythological import, from the Scandinavian countries through to the Celtic world and Germany. The Rowan was known to be a tree of protection and for courage. And depending on what your background was, some cultures believe that you should not use the wood of the rowan because it would be an insult to the fairy folk. Others believe that if you use the wood of the rowan, it would provide your warriors with more courageous actions. But it is tremendously beloved in mythology and history and culture. It's known as quickbeam. It's known as the witch's tree, the fairy tree. In the language of my grandparents, it's Carún, the Scots Gaelic word for the rowan tree. And I would wish that everyone tonight would know that I share the protection of mine with you. It is a lovely tree, and it is a good friend. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Jennifer. So I chose the willow tree because it is a very mystical and magical tree which bends gracefully, never breaking. It is strong and beautiful and is in spiritual alignment to the moon and water. I made my wand using a willow branch that had fallen from its mother tree on a Lake Michigan beach, which I used for blessings. And my chosen magical name is Willow Wind. However, its goddesses are those of the underworld, Hera, Hecate, Circe, Persephone. So it's appropriate that I found this song by Paul McCartney, written to comfort Ringo Starr's children after his first wife died. I've made some edits to the original to reflect more on the majestic willow tree and its association with renewal, hope, strength, and nurturance. Bend, my dear willow, flow with the breezes, you are magical. Life as it happens, nobody warns you, willow, give us hope. Work your magic, heal the sickness, protect and keep us safe. The wind whispers through you, spirits speak to you, and secrets you will keep. Be well, my dear willow, peace will follow, time will heal all wounds. Grow to the heavens now and forever, in our hearts you'll be, dear willow tree. Work your magic, heal the sickness, protect and keep us safe. The wind whispers through you, spirits speak to you, and secrets you do keep. Bend, my dear willow, be flexible and strong. Winds blow hard and cold. Life ever changing, but your roots, they are deep. Let your branches flow. Thank you, dear willow, we thank you, dear willow. Grant us peace and harmony. Be with us and bless us today and forever. In our dreams you'll be, magical willow tree. Now Bree will speak of the yew tree.
Hello. My tree I picked was the yew tree, which is sacred to my goddess Hecate. It's also called the tree of resurrection and of eternity because it grows for between 400 and 600 years roughly, and it basically seeds itself through the roots. It's also incredibly poisonous and toxic, so it fits in with the part of Hecate that is queen of the underworld. It's also sacred to Persephone, Artemis, Astarte, and also Odin, which kind of surprised me when I did some research on this. Here's a picture of what they call the Druid tree from Ireland. Let's see if you can see it all. I think that works. Anyway, that tree is sometimes like this one, could be a couple thousand years old too. And also, it was called a Druid tree in Ireland because the Druids would gather around that and do all of their magical work around that tree. I'd also like to read a poem called Yew Trees by William Wordsworth. There is a yew tree, pride of Lorton Vale, which to this day stands single in the midst of its own darkness, as it stood of yore, not loath to furnish weapons for the bands of Umfreville or Percy ere they marched to Scotland's heaths, or those that crossed the sea and drew their sounding bows at Azakor, perhaps at earlier Crecy or Pontius. Of vast circumference and gloom profound, this solitary tree, a living thing, produced too slowly ever to decay, of form and aspect too magnificent to be destroyed. But worthier still of note are those fraternal four of Borrowdale, joined in one solemn and capacious grove, huge trunks, and each particular trunk a growth of intertwisted fibers serpentine, upcoiling and invertedly convolved, nor uninformed with fantasy and looks that threaten the profane, a pillared shade upon whose grassless floor of red-brown hue, by sheddings from the pining umbrage tinged perennially, beneath whose sable roof of boughs, as if for festal purpose decked with unrejoicing berries, by the way, which are actually edible except for the seeds. Ghostly shapes may meet at noontide, fear and trembling hope, silence and foresight, death the skeleton, and time the shadow, there to celebrate, as in a natural temple scattered over with altars undisturbed of mossy stone, united worship, or in mute repose to lie, and listen to the mountain flood murmuring from Glamara's inmost caves. So mote it be.
Thank you very much, Bree. Chris, would you now go?
So my thought of this night was such that what could I share? And what could I share to recognize all of the trees among which we stand here that have been presented tonight? I couldn't come up with anything better than the contribution of a fellow Bardic friend of mine, Arthur Hines. And so now I will share his piece, I Go to the Church of Trees.
I go to the church of trees. Moss-covered pews and bird-song hymns awaken me to the unhearable. My fingers trace the oak bark texts and sing a sylvan parable. Closing my eyes, I see the swirling, verdant powers empirical, and so I alone am not alone, but an all-is-oneness miracle. I go to the church of trees. Beneath my feet, between my toes, the bracken paints nature's omnipotence. Circling my head, all boreal gods and spires dance their immanence. Opening eyes, I feel inside the ancients' voices in resonance. And they so in kind are of my kind, divinity's song in residence. I go to the church of trees. I am the ash, I the oakwood, ever hallowing and all discerning. Elder I claim, alder my name, with hazel's wisdoms yet burning. Cyclalet eyes, mistletoe eye, a liminal's caresses yearning. a sacred bowl, my soul is made whole. I am to the world returning. I go to the church of trees. I go to the church of trees. I go to the church of trees.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, and thank you so much, Arthur, Hines, and Abstentia. We really appreciate it. I'm going to just skip forward a little bit here. So, Selena, are you ready to go ahead and do the tree healing?
Let us all feel ourselves connected with the earth beneath us, just as a tree would put in roots. And let the power of the earth flow up through our bodies, experiencing our bodies like trunks of trees. And as we hold our hands up, we experience the branches of a tree that draws the power up from the earth, but also draws down the powers of the sky into self. Many traditions work with the power of tree and tree meditation. So we draw the power of the tree down into us. We feel the power of the sky and the full moon flowing through us, going into the earth. And in like fashion, we draw up the power of the earth through our roots, our trunks, our branches, up to the sky. And we celebrate the full moon. We draw that full moon down into ourselves, into our hearts for healing and well-being. So be it. And now I invite you to work with a different kind of tree, something that's a mythic tree, the moon tree. So imagine for a few moments that we all are gathered around a silver tree with branches, and at the very top of that tree is a silver disc like the moon. And the leaves on this moon tree are disc-shaped and silver. We imagine the moon tree before us. We imagine us all around it. And knowing that each of those disc-shaped silver leaves can take a journey from this sacred moon tree to those in need of healing, individual humans, situations, creatures, places, plants. So we have a bit of music, the Bardic flute of Chris, the roaming gnome. And as he plays some flute music, I invite you to envision yourself around that magical moon tree of healing. And on each leaf that you choose, to put the name or the initials of a person or a situation that's in need of healing. And as we complete our journey in visualization, those silver disc leaves in the silvery light of the moon, these leaves will go off in many directions to carry the healing wishes of our community meeting live, and yes, across time, connecting later. So Bardic flute and silver leaves of the moon tree. Be well, be well, be well, be well, be well. And silver disk of moon tree leaves go off to all who are in need. Be well, be well, be well. So be it. Amen. All hail. Blessed be. Aho. Amen. Namaste. Shalom, shalom. So be it. And for our planetary healing tonight, an image of the forest at Circle Sanctuary. Let us send out blessings to the trees around our planet. Grow green, grow green, grow green, grow green, grow green. So be it. We send our well wishes to trees around the world, and may the green light of healing from our circle go forth and bring about reforestation, 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 and clean, abundant water for all the trees in need and all of the creatures and other forms of vegetation and life in need. So mote it be.
Tree healing to one and all. Shar, would you like to please release our circle?
We give thanks to the ancients who preserve the wisdom of the forest and to the presence of spirit. As we close this circle, may we ever be aware of your presence within us and around us still. We give thanks to the life support systems of the tree networks and to the presence of water. And as we close this circle, may we be ever aware of your presence within us and around us still. We give thanks now to the energetic networks that fortify the forest and to the presence of regenerative fire. And as we close this circle, may we ever be aware of your presence within and around us still. We give thanks to the guardian trees forming safety nets for the forest and to the presence of air. As we close this circle, may we ever be aware of your presence within us and around us still. We give thanks to the mother redwoods, trees of life for webs of life and all the trees that support life, and to the presence of earth. And as we close this circle, may we ever be aware of your presence within us and around us still. So the circle is open, but unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. Blessed be, so mote it be.
Selena, do you have some final thoughts for us this evening?
I invite all of you who have joined us live and who'll be joining us later to take some time out at this full moon time to be appreciative of one or more trees where you live. And as we conclude our time together, may we recognize that we together create an enchanted forest of possibilities, of greener, sustainable ways of human life, of healing for our planet. So reflect a few moments on our time together and take the blessings of our trees and trees within and around into your home area. Have a blessed full moon evening, and may the tree wisdom from tonight and in times to come be a guide for you. So be it.
And now one of our Circle Sanctuary ministers, Reverend Laura Gonzalez, is going to say a couple of words on behalf of Circle Sanctuary.
Thank you, Judith, and thank you to everyone who participated on our Full Moon Circle, whether you watch live or later. Thank you to everyone who participated on all the volunteer work that is brought to you from Circle Sanctuary. We still have a beautiful land to take care of, and we have a beautiful church to maintain, and we have bills to pay, electric and gas and etc. So I would like to ask you all to please consider supporting Circle Sanctuary by joining our membership program and get the benefits of membership or with donations to the Circle COVID-19 Relief Fund. You can find more information on both at the Circle Sanctuary website, circlesanctuary.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And now I invite all of the presenters here and all of you at home, or those of you watching later, to hold up a representation of your sacred wood or of your bright candle. Bless the trees all around us, bless the earth below us, and bless you all for being here with us tonight. Blessed full moon. Yay. Thank you.